I've been working on this wing root here. On this right side I've got quite a few penetrations there. Places where the fuel line come through and the electrical wiring. See both the front and the back. Of course places there where the fuel gauges tubes are going to come through. And I've got hangers for the wires there. And then I've got a cutout in there for the ELT annunciator panel. I used a soldering iron for that. Same thing with the holes for the fuel gauge tubes. And then I put mostly those little dollar patches on things. I had to cut a special patch to go over that wire where it penetrates the fuselage there in the back where it goes past that wing root. So I've got all those on there. Those look pretty good. I put another coat of polybrush on there with the brush. I don't think I'm going to spray that. Debating whether I'm going to put poly spray on that with the brush or not to put the silver on that. I'll have to wait and see what I think. Now I started working on the left hand side and I've got it mostly fixed up the same way this side. There's not as many penetrations on that, but I've got to wait now until the polybrush cures so I can put the wiring bundle over there through the wing root, and then I can put that interior wing root panel on and figure out where I'm going to have penetrations there. The penetrations there will be for the headset jacks. Of course, for the fuel gauge, I don't have that one set up either. Interior side wing root panel and snapped it up in there so I can get a location for the holes that penetrations that go through for the fuel gauge and for the headset adapters there, and I can see those pretty clearly now. I've rolled the airplane over. I'm waiting for the soldering iron to heat up, and then I can take it and poke it down through those openings for the fuel gauge and locate those two holes there for the fuel gauge. And then I've got my other soldering iron, my gun, and I've got a spade tip on it, and I take it around the other side and cut out reliefs around those pockets for the headset. Now, this is a pencil type soldering iron here, and on this in this case I took the panel, mounted it on, and I'm going to take the soldering iron and go through from this side. On the right side, when I did it, I did it from outside, kind of poked a hole through like that. That kind of didn't exactly give me my hole as pretty as I'd have liked it. This time I'll do it this way. Okay, that gives me my holes for my fuel gauges. This is the left-hand wing root panel here, and this is where the pockets are for the headsets, jacks. This is my gun here, and I've got this little spade bit on there. So I'm just gonna I don't need to go all the way back on that, just enough to relieve that, and then I'll go forward on it enough here that I can get the cables in there without any problem. There we go. I'm going to get a little bit more around that. Okay, that should do that one. I'll do the front one here. Okay, now I'll make doublers to go over those. I'll just glue a doubler on here, and I can use the hole that's in there for patterning to cut it out. Patches on this left side that I'm going to do. I've got a doubler here over these fuel gauge outlets, or fuel gauge lines where they come through, and then here over where the headset jacks go, front and rear. Got a doubler and it closed in around this fuel line. This is the main fuel line, the one that comes out of the rear fuel tank on the left wing, goes down, and then this one comes from the belly tank and pumps into the fuel tank. This doubler here, this is going to be a clamp for this fuel vent line here, and then I've got a doubler up here. I made up a larger one. I used the inside of a masking tape roll to measure that one out. They needed a bigger one for that one. And then this one here is the forward fuel line where it comes in from the fuel tank and goes down through the forward section. Anyway, that does it for this left side. I'll probably do some iron work on that to smooth everything up, and I'm probably going to try to shrink this a little bit more, because once I cut that out, that this panel anyway loosened up, so I might not have got that shrunken as much. These reliefs here will be cut out later. I can cut those out later when I get ready to put the interior up, before I put the wings on. Same with the fuel vent line. They're just have to open those up to what the main panel is on there, and that'll be good. Now, this is the right wing root, and for some reason it's a little busier than the left wing root was, even though there's less going on over here. Theoretically, all of the functional stuff goes out that side, but I've got this wire bundle here that goes back to the ELT, and that I've got a couple of cable clamps that'll go here, so I've got doublers under those, and then I've got the annunciator panel in here for the ELT. That's the cutouts made for that, and then of course the fuel gauges here, and then back here I've got a clamp for this fuel vent line, and again another penetration here where this wire bundle goes through, and then the rear fuel line going through here. And I put doublers over these wing mount hinges on this side, because I didn't do as good a job getting these on there as I did the other side. I think I did this side first, and I kind of had big gapping holes in here, and so I put a doubler over that to kind of close that in. Plus this line here comes through, and it had a big gash in it where it comes through, and a bump out here, and the same with this wire bundle. So I've got little dollar patches, the 2-inch patches here over the fuel gauges, where each one of these clamps go on there, over this where this fuel vent line penetrated through, that closed that in, over where this main fuel line went, and then 2 patches here, one for this fuel line, the forward fuel line, and one here where the wire bundle comes out. I've got one antenna on this side, this is for the GPS, and one wire for the right wing nav light, and then this is the wire that goes to the annunciator panel from the ELT. Anyway, this side's done, and it looks pretty good. Again, I have to punch the holes, or melt the holes out for these fuel gauges. I think I'm going to just leave this the way it is, except this lower section I'm going to have to paint because it's exposed. This is where the door goes, and this section will be exposed. The inside here will be covered up with that interior wing root panel, but this sill here, this window top or the door top, was going to be exposed, so I'm going to have to tape this off along in here someplace, and this will be painted black.